Hey everybody, Erica here from In the Company of Cards. I thought I would just come on quickly. Wasn't really expecting to, but I know that it's always helpful to see a friendly face, especially during trying times. So I'm hoping to be that friendly face for you all. If you didn't catch it yet, I hope you will look at my video from yesterday. It is where Psychic Violetta and I had a conversation, a Sunday conversation. One unusual thing that happened in that particular Sunday conversation is that we both had our decks and we both did sort of tandem reads. So if you are interested in seeing Violetta in action and what it will look like when we read on the same question and then compare responses. Yesterday's video is certainly one worth watching. I think she's great, and I know I'm going to have her back on. But anyway, oh, yeah, here's the other thing I wanted to say. I had said that when I reached 35,000 viewers, which at the time that I said it felt like quite the stretch, I would do some free readings, and we are not quite there yet. We are almost at 34,000. The channel's first anniversary will be on August 1st. My birthday is a couple of days ahead of that. If we can get another, you know, 1,200 people or so, we would be at that goal. And I would love to come on and do a couple of hours worth of free live readings for you all. So, please spread the word about the channel. That will help it grow, obviously. And we'll hasten the day when I can do some free readings for you all online. All right. So, since we last spoke, of course, Iran was responded to, we'll say. We hit them, and they then retaliated against us. We know that they hit a base, a US base in Qatar. Uh, we don't have any word. Well, we have not heard words on damage or casualties in either attack, either the one that we did on them, or the one that they did on us. So we don't know. But clearly things are escalating, particularly because, you've got 47 talking about wanting to affect regime change in Iran, a sovereign country, I might add. The days of us being able to sort of wave our wand and affect regime change because we feel like it are gone. We need to work on the regime change. We need to have happen right here. But at any rate, if he's saying that, that means he has got some, bloodlust in his eye and in his bloodstream, such as it is, and will probably want to enmesh us further into a war with Iran now, which of course Israel would love. Why did he go into this in the first place? Why did he agree to do Bibi's bidding? I think it's financial, and I think it's personally financial. I think that Bibi said something to him like, I know you love that waterfront property in Gaza. It can be yours for the mere price of flattening Iran. That's what I think. Plus, he wants to look like a bully because he was embarrassed about his parade. At any rate, here we are. So I wanted to look at whether there will be further retaliation from Iran. Now, Iran doesn't really have many friends in the region, believe it or not, but they do have, you know, subversive type operators who will ally with them. So I just want to know, what will Iran fold up, you know, fold up its tent and call it a day and maybe return to the negotiating table? I mean, or are we on the eve of something bigger and badder than that? I know badder is not the right word, but you know what I mean. It's an expression. Uh, what will happen between us and Iran, I guess is the question. I'll let Spirit pick all the cards. If you're new, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. Please do like, share, subscribe, spread the word. Even to your people who are into ASMR, they can just listen to my voice and not pay any attention to the words. You know, I maybe could have asked the question in a more specific way, but I have the scythe, I have the coffin, I have the tower, I have the bouquet, and I have the birds. So when I looked at what I really was wondering whether Iran was going to do any more retaliation. And I think that we have maybe not dealt them a death blow with the attacks that we did, but have certainly laid them low for the moment. These are cards of violence and endings and death and that kind of thing. Not that we know any casualty numbers at all, but we did this, this death dealing thing to them, which showed our power and might. And so they probably will want to come together and negotiate. So sometimes that happens, you know. So one actor commits an act of aggression, the other actor has to respond, and then they'll call it even and then come to the negotiating table. I think that is what will happen. But we've got this bellicose blabber in chief who now wants to do regime change, so that could change things. But I think for now, um, I think that the Iranians are going to consider it, relatively speaking, right? Even. You hit us, we hit you. Okay, that's it. Israel, of course, would like us to take it further. But I think for now, um, I think for the moment, that's it. I mean, really, there needs to be an assessment made of how successful this foray of ours was. It was premature for him to say that we have obliterated um, their capability, nuclear capability. We don't know that for sure. How would you know? There's some talk about the fact that they got a heads up ahead of time and moved things out of the way so that we didn't actually hit as much as we thought we hit. But I just think time will tell. So much for the president who wanted to do no more forever wars. On that note, I wanted to talk a little bit about uh, Thomas Massie. That's that's a representative from Kentucky. So he is a Republican and was MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. However, after we launched this attack on Iran's nuclear arsenal, he asked Speaker Johnson, why weren't we brought home from vacation and informed about this? Like, why weren't we consulted or at the very least informed? This, of course, made not just Speaker Johnson angry. I mean, and it's a simple question, but it also made 47 angry. What further angered them is the fact that Massie is a co-sponsor of the bill to introduce the War Powers Resolution. And he's co-sponsoring it with Ro Khanna of California, who is a Democrat. So Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie have introduced the War Powers resolution, which says that he cannot do anything else. 47 cannot do any other aggressive measure towards Iran without first consulting and, of course, ideally getting the approval of Congress. And there's a time frame. I think the time frame is he can't do it for 45 days without first seeking the advice and consent of Congress. So this, of course, has made 47 really angry, and therefore his lapdog, um, Speaker Johnson, is really angry. So 47 has said, he loves to call people names. So his name for Thomas Massie, a loyalist up until now, he's called him a bum. And of course, thrown out the threat that he always throws out, which is that Massie is going to be primaried. If you don't fall into line, you run the risk of being primaried, which means they will run somebody against you that they've given the approval to, so that theoretically you're not in the general election because you've been primaried, and your opponent is now the loyalist who will have won. So, it's an old threat. I mean, it's the one he always flings around. Um, Good for Thomas Massie because he's correct. The Congress should have been consulted and we're not. So I just want to know, I'm less worried about Massie because he's done the right thing and the chips will fall for him where they fall. What I'm really interested in is whether other Republicans will fall in line. Now, we know that Marjorie Taylor Greene, I mean, not that anybody cares about her one way or the other, but she has spoken out against the action that the president took in Iran. And there are others. Steve Bannon, of course, was not a fan because he's an isolationist. And 47 kind of claimed to be an isolationist. That's what he ran on. So there is a real schism in MAGA world um, amongst the red hats. So what I'd like to know is what's going to happen with that schism. And I think for schism, I'm going to use the crossroads because, the crossroads is where a road diverges. Two roads, two two roads diverged, and I took the one less traveled, and that made all the difference. I think that's Carl Sandburg or Robert Frost. Frost. Um, so I'm going to use the crossroads for this schism in MAGA world and see whether it's going to lead to anything. Okay. So this time we are going to pull a significator. Okay. Will this schism grow? Boy, it's deep in the deck. So it's the next to the last card. Because it's the next to the last card in the pile, it's going to be the next to the last card in the spread. That means I'm going to pull three cards ahead of it. So now we have four, and then we have the fifth. Okay. And it also means that the schism, which is the crossroads, is not the center card. So whatever is the center card will be really interesting. So we have the anchor, the house, the mice, crossroads, and the book. And I am going to draw some clarifiers, but I'll say a couple of words first. So, the first thing that I want to say is, you know, now they're mired down in this controversy in addition to everything else, right? An anchor can keep you safe, but I don't think we're talking about safety here. I think that MAGA world is now stuck because of the actions taken by the occupant of the White House. Look what the center card is, the mice. MAGA world is now rife with worry, anxiety, stress, um, just chickens with their heads cut off. And then the fourth card is the schism card we were looking for. And what's so interesting is that the last card is the book. And the book is about things we don't know. And I can mirror this last card with this first card. So if the anchor is mirroring the book, they will be stuck for a while, not knowing what end is up. Well, you never know what he's going to wake up and do, who the last person is in his ear, who he's mad at next, who he wants to suck up to. We never know. So this is creating a really rocky situation. They don't feel safe. They feel anchored in indecision and just sort of cluelessness. For example, he said, "Oh, I'm going to make a decision in 2 weeks." Well, he had already made the decision a week before he even said that. So you can't believe anything out of his mouth. You can't believe anything that the um, press secretary says. Carolyn Levitt. Um, this is a problem not just for Democrats. This is a problem actually for everybody, including MAGA world, because he's like he's out of control. Now, this means that we can take the second card, which is the house, the White House, and this is the schism card. So yeah, I think he's going to lose support, and I think he's going to start bleeding support for all kinds of reasons. But this latest reason is certainly one of them. People are scared. I'll give you an example of who's scared. Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard, to her credit, I mean, she does not belong in that job. She's unqualified, but at any rate, there she is. And she said prior to the mutual attacks that went on, that there was no evidence that Iran could, tomorrow launch a nuclear weapon. There was no evidence, she said. 47 said, I don't believe her. And theoretically, she has access to the best minds with the best opinions about this subject. But 47 never believes his advisors unless they agree with what he already thinks. So, instead of Tulsi Gabbard holding her ground, she did a 180 publicly. And if she wants to keep her job, which I'm sure she does, this is what she's going to have to do. Whatever she says, she has to check with the boss first. And if she doesn't have a chance to check with the boss first and she says whatever she says, if it's not what he agrees with, she's going to have to turn around and clean it up really quick to match what he says. It is a position that I would think she would find humiliating, but I don't know that she's easily humiliated. I think she's picked her team, decided what side she's on, and it's Team Trump. So, a lot of people, even other people in the administration, said the one thing that they were worried about was that he would spill the beans before the attack. And he kind of almost did. So, there's a lot of, I wouldn't call it dissension in the ranks yet, aside from Massie and Marjorie. But I think it's anxiety in the ranks. And that's okay because anxiety can lead to dissension in the ranks. So I'm going to pull some clarifiers and see what I get about this anxiety first off, and then the schism, and then this book, which is the card for indecision. Okay, so for this anxiety card, the clarifiers are the tree, the stork, and the bouquet. I think that much as I would like to say that Republicans are going to be peeling off quickly, they're not. You look at, oh, yeah, I did drop a card. They're not. It's going to take a long time because they're going to say, do I want to short term do what is the right thing and then jam myself up with him in the long term? Or am I going to cast my lot with him and be rewarded in the end? So, I mean, that's why they're with him in the first place, right? He's got a lot of sycophants around him, people who are self-interested and as transactional as he is. And so the Republicans will not be as quick to peel off as we would like them to be. However, and we'll look at this in a minute. The Republicans also have to be aware of their constituencies. So, all right. So here's the card for the schism. And we have the letter, the key, and the dog. So this is the schism. A lot of them are looking forward to whatever the big, beautiful bill will do for them. So they're thinking, it would be smart of us to stay on his good side. Again, they're transactional people. Then we have this book, and this is the card of indecision. You have my scales card, which is really the card for, right versus wrong, justice, weighing the pros and cons, etc. And they are just not people of moral rectitude. They will blow with the wind, and if the wind looks like, if 47 looks like the wind is at his sails, then they will stick with him. And I think that, this is a card for a lot of things. For one, it's government, but another thing is um, loneliness. Even though there is a bunch of them, I think that they feel lonely in this stance that they're taking because they know it's not the right one. I can mirror this last card with this anchor card. So for the time being, and time is mutable, but for the time being, there will be a surprising number of them who will stick with him, who will not be like Massie and be vocally indignant that they were not consulted. So, but that leads me to the next thing, um, the final thing, because this is going to be a short video for once, right? The one yesterday was long, so you can listen to it while you go to sleep or while you're cooking dinner or something. But the next thing I wanted to look at is the next No Kings protest. And some people are trying to tell me it's July 4th. And I remember saying, is it really July 4th? Because I thought it was the middle of July. Well, I looked it up and it is the middle of July. It's July 17th. Now, a couple of things are interesting about July 17th. One is that it's the anniversary of John Lewis's death. If you don't know who John Lewis is, Google him. Great civil rights icon, among other things, and also a representative from Georgia. But at any rate, So it's this, I think, seventh anniversary of his passing. That's why the date was picked. But the other thing to know about that date is that it's a Thursday, which is very interesting to me. The last one, of course, was on a weekend, and um, if you have it on a Saturday or Sunday, people may have plans, but they can arrange them. Um, but to have it on a weekday feels very French to me. And I don't know why I'm on this French kick lately, probably because my book got translated and I'm thrilled about that. But I'm saying, on a Thursday is a weekday. Even in the summer, Thursday's a weekday. I wonder if the organizers are going to take a leaf out of the French resistance playbook and call for, among other things, a general strike, which would be, I mean, amazing that we're in the streets. Those of you who are going to be in the streets, you know where I'll be home drinking my water and minding my business. Um, but people will be in the streets and general strike would mean that everything closes down. Nobody goes to work. Nobody shops online. Nobody does squat. Because what I'm thinking is that what these Republicans are very slow to get off the Trump train. But if their constituents make the case that they better get off the Trump train or they're going to be primaried, um, or that people just won't vote Republican, that could move them along. So, by the way, news just flashed up while I was doing this that 47 has declared that there's a truce between Israel and Iran. This is what I suspected was that there would be a kind of calming down of things, what I just said. Um, where I said the thing about how, okay, you hit me. All right, well, then I hit you. Okay, now we've hit each other. So let's call a truce. So there you go. Of course, truces with Israel are never worth the paper they're written on. Just saying. Anyway, what I want to know is how will July 17th go? Will it be as big as the other protests have been? It really does need to be. Will there be a general strike vibe, or a call for a general strike by the organizers or anything like that? What will it be like, and will it move the needle? So I think I'm going to use the garden for the day of protest and just see what's around the garden, and then we can call it a day and I'll come back. I'll come back tomorrow. I know it's a fraught time, so I will try to come on as much as I can this week. Okay, so we're looking at how July 17th will go, and we're going to use the garden for the people. The people will call them on July 17th. Okay, so this will stand for the events of July 17th. Okay, before I talk about these five, I think I'll pull some clarifiers. And then I'll even pull my 3 card postscript. Okay, so the original five are the star, the whip, the garden, the coffin, and crossroads. So I'm going to just first off say that I can mirror the star, which talks about the future, with the crossroads. So whatever happens on July 17th will actually further the cause of the schism. I think that things will get worse for him. Okay, so now we're going to look at this. Also, the whip is the second card. I can mirror the whip with the coffin. Remember what he did when he called out the National Guard here in California, in LA. Um, this was not specific to LA. The way that it's phrased, the order, he can do this in any city, any state. Seize control of the National Guard from the governor of the state for his own federalized ends. I think there will be um, violence and death at the hands of his um, appointed force, law and order forces. Um, Again, I'll say Kent State. These he's got these ICE people who knows who trained them. You've got National Guardsmen, you've got the Marines. Uh, Somebody's going to get antsy, trigger happy, startled, whatever. And I think something bad it will happen somewhere. We have a big country, so this can happen anywhere. He could also, again, federalize National Guards and troops anywhere. So this is the card of discipline, but this is the card for death. So, forewarned is forearmed, as my mother would say. So let's go back and here we have the star card again, and the star is the future. Here's him at his most narcissistic, the bear, the mice again, and the clouds again. So what he will want to do on the 17th, and of course in days prior, is set the tone for the future, which is that he's the big man in charge, he's the boss, he's the bear on his hind legs, and he will want to sow fear, anxiety, worry, and confusion. Next, we have the card of discipline, the whip. Clarifiers are the fish, the bouquet, and clover. So there are people who will do his bidding for the right price and the right reward. Here we have the people participating in the No Kings protest. If there's a general strike, this is the participation in that, etc. But look what we have. We have a mountain, we have an anchor, and we have the young woman. I think that now he's tasted blood, right? His response will be harsh. Something like, I don't know, ordering a curfew or something. Can you do that? A nationwide curfew? Uh, because look, these are very heavy stuck cards. And what is he trying to be the heavy about? And who is he trying to make stuck? The people. Also, remember, this is very yin. If there is if there is a curfew, well, people are going to have to go home. I mean, they have to accept that there's a curfew. Whatever he does, people will have to accept that, right? Because he's showing his muscle. You know, in the short term, that can help him, but not, I don't necessarily think in the long term. Uh, the next card is that coffin. Clarifiers are scale, cross, and stork. I'm going to say, I do think there will be some violence. There may be deaths. This is justice, right? And out of whatever pain is experienced on the 17th, the tide will turn in our favor. That's what I think. I think people will say no mas, including Republicans who to date have cast their lot with him. So, uh, out of something bad, something good will come. Not to sound like Pollyanna, because, if I had my way, it wouldn't take something like that. But we are a stiff-necked people, and it takes us forever to learn the right lessons, right? And I think there will have to be some pain and some sacrifice attached to the country learning the lessons that they need to learn about the wages of sin is death. What was the sin? Electing him. So we will have to learn the lesson in a harder way than we've learned it to date. I know people are saying, okay, we get it, that's enough. We've learned our lesson. No, apparently we haven't. We haven't. And if just, a couple of protests is enough to make you throw in the towel, well, interesting. Uh, Interesting. Okay, crossroads. Remember that was that schism? And the clarifiers are the dog, the ring, and the moon. People are really going to start to say, I mean, is it helping me still to be friends with him or to be on his side? What should I be committed to? Which side should I throw myself behind? Because that will dictate. Let me pull the first card up because I can mirror it. That will dictate my reputation into the future. And this goes for his for the Congress as well. Do I, are you going to want to be known as I don't know, a McCarthyite, you know, or are you going to be on the side of the people? So they will have decisions to make. I think it will be quite the momentous day. Now, I drew a three-card postscript. So, sort of any last things I can say about this. We have the scythe, the heart, and the house. I think that there are people who support him who will have their bullets, rubber or otherwise, and their tear gas and their flash bomb, bang bomb, whatever those things are, flash bang bombs. And I think damage will be done. And I think it will be the death knell for this presidency. You see that scythe cuts right into the heart. The love that people have for this man will be severed. That's what I think. But again, not without some sacrifice. So go online, find out what trainings there are going to be for the 17th. Look to see if there is a call for a general strike. If you're one of the organizers and you're watching my work, um, I advise a general strike. I'm just saying. Because those of us who sit at home, we shop, we go to work, Or maybe we don't in a general strike. I think it would be very smart to take a leaf out of that livre français, French book, general strike. But I do think the 17th will turn the tide. I think there will be a lot of heat on both sides, and I think that heat will combust, and I think that that will mark his a turning of the tide for him. I think his days of being the head guy or in charge, I mean, are limited. Head guy in charge are limited. Now, I told you about that news, how he's declared that there's this truce between Israel and Iran. Remember that one of the things that he lusts after is the Nobel Prize. So if he can uh, be a participant in bombing, and that then supposedly brings everybody to the table, then he will be rewarded with a peace prize for having, I mean, come on. Anyway, that's what he wants. That's his plan. I hope to God he doesn't get a Nobel Prize. I also don't think that Israel will, again, a, a peace treaty or a truce, it's not worth the paper it's written on with them. That's what I think. So anyway, prepare yourselves for July 17th. I don't know what's going on July 4th, beyond the usual things, but the big next No Kings protest thing is July 17th. And I think it will be a very important day in history moving forward. So that's it for today. And I hope you all have a good rest of your, what's today, Monday? Rest of your Monday. And I will come on and see you tomorrow at some point. All right, take care.